started downtown. If my train of thought is a little choppy, I'm generally just trying to not run anybody over. But once we get out on the highway, man, you can't stop me with a stop sign. I'll be chatting the whole time. Now, okay, so yeah, that's the broken out window building right there in front. That's part of the old bunkhouse system. And so all around us, all throughout Juneau, there are remnants of the gold mines that are buried in the trees because the forest is so aggressive that it absolutely just takes over as soon as you leave it for even just a moment. This area is the Tongass National Forest. We're going to go out into it once we get to the glacier. That's 17 million acres of trees. And they consider it a rainforest because of how much rain we get. It's very, very wet. But a cold one, so they call it a temperate rainforest. Sneaking on through. So one of the other things that's been here since the days of mining is the Red Dog Saloon and Mercantile. Now, some folks are big Red Dog fans here. Yeah? We got some fans of the Red Dog?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, somebody had already gone. Now,
yes.
They built that saloon way back in the day for the miners, but nowadays they do have this policy that they don't serve alcohol to miners. Yeah, can you believe that? So since I see that most of you folks are probably not miners, you could go and you could get something called a duck fart. That's the local shot. Now, they told me how to make it. They said, Mason, to make a duck fart, you squeeze it. Sorry, that was foul. Oh, they do get a little bit better. Yes, good question. Like this. So this is the Sealaska Heritage Plaza. Basically, on our right and behind us, the town is mostly devoted to tourism, whereas ahead of us, it's mostly government, with one exception, and that's the Sealaska Heritage Plaza. It's owned and operated by the local Native American corporation. In fact, I heard that the chief told them to put those poles up. And then up the hill on the right-hand side, as we go through this intersection, there's a brick building that's got two flags on top of it. You can only see the American flag right there. That was the state capitol building. Kind of blink and you miss it. It's one of only 4 that doesn't have a dome, and it did win the contest for 49th most beautiful state capitol building.
49.
Now, as we go through this intersection on the right-hand side, that great big office building there with the tinted windows is actually the state office building, or as the locals lovingly refer to it, the SOB. Now, actually, a lot of people work in the SOB, or work for the SOB, right? And so working for the government is actually the largest source of income here in Juneau. It's larger even than tourism. Now, one of the reasons for that is, with this being the state capital, and with there being no roads in or out, and they can't really outsource anything. So if it has to do with the government, like all it is here. And so you can work for the federal government in this building just behind the Ace Hardware, or for the state. Tourism is number 2, right? And then our third largest industry is a tie. It's tied between silver mining and fishing. And then on the right-hand side here, this is Gold Creek. This has to do with the history of Juneau. Big time, big time. Back in 1880, this is when Juneau really got its start. Oh, we got a seaplane coming into land. That's actually what I would like to be doing. I love driving you folks around, but I think we'd have so much more fun in an Airbus than in a regular bus, So that's operated by Wings Airways. They fly right out of a little dock there downtown. Super cool. So I've been working on my pilot's license in the winters. But let's talk about Juneau. Now, if you look to the left-hand side, the Juneau Hotel has a Juneau-sized Mount Rushmore on the side of it. Now, there are 3 fellas' heads on there. You've got Joe Juneau, Richard Harris, and one of the chiefs of the Tlingit tribe, Chief Kiku. Now, this is how it all happened. What happened is Joe Juneau and Richard Harris were prospectors out here looking for gold, and after weeks of searching, they really just weren't having any luck. It was going terribly for them. So, they had the idea to talk to the local Native Americans, the Tlingit tribe, and ask for help. And what they did is they agreed to trade Chief Kiku 50 blankets in exchange for just being taken to where the gold was. Well, that sounded great to everybody involved, so they hopped on some horses and they went up to the saddle between Mount Juneau, this mountain on our right-hand side, and Mount Roberts, which is the mountain behind us that has the tramp going to the top of it. And there in between the mountains, Chief Kiku pointed at the stream bed and it was littered with pea-sized gold nuggets. Now, it was a huge strike, so as Richard Harris was sitting there looking at all that gold, he recognized 2 things. 1, he's now a wealthy man, and 2, there's going to be a town here, because this amount of gold is enough to precipitate a significant gold rush. And so he decided to capitalize on that a little bit. He goes down to the little beachhead, and he stakes out a couple blocks worth of a little town. And then, of course, he names the town after somebody near and dear to his heart, and that's how our town got the name Harrisburg. So, yeah. So if you think it's arrogant to go and name a town after yourself, well, that's what everybody thought back then, too. So as hundreds of people were pouring into the area, they were finding that Richard Harris was kind of hard to be around. He acted like he owned the place, kind of a self-elected mayor. And so, when the government sent some folks up here from the Navy to help keep the peace, this is also in the year 1880, their leader, Lieutenant Commander Charles Rockwell, came up with a plan to kind of take Harris down a peg to make life more bearable in Juneau. Well, in Harrisburg at the time, right? So what they did is they decided to change the name of the town. And the committee decided that they still wanted the town named after somebody important in the area. And so that's how the town got the name Rockwell. So, yeah. Now all that happened in 1880. But by 1881, Joe Juneau was back on the scene, and now he had gained a new and useful skill. He had learned how to speak English. And so he becomes very popular. He just so happens he's a very likable fella. And, you know, he and his friends get to talking, and word starts to get around that there is one thing that our good friend Joe Juneau is a little sad about. And that is that there's nothing in the area named after him. You know, he's been here this whole time, and he doesn't have any legacy to show for it. Well, pretty soon, enough folks in the town kind of come around to his way of thinking that it comes to a vote. They decide everybody should get a say. It should be real democratic, like everybody's going to vote on what the name of the town should be. And so, Joe Juneau gets ready for this vote. What he does is he gets an ace up his sleeve. The night before the vote, he goes to every bar in town, and he agrees to pay the tab of anybody who promised us to vote for the name Juneau the next day. And so, one long night of political campaigning later, as folks are staggering into the voting booths, they're all voting for one name in particular, and that is how our town got the name Skagway. I'm just kidding, it's Juneau. So you might say that we purchased the name of the town with liquor. And now that's kind of where Juneau comes from. Now, you know, as time goes on, we become the capital of Alaska. It's fantastic. And here we are. No, we just left the downtown. And so we're entering the Twin Lakes area, but there's something even a little bit more interesting happening. Right as we were leaving the downtown, we went past the high school, which had a middle school and an elementary school attached to it. So that's like secondary and primary schools, right? And then across the street was the University of Alaska Southeast. It was technically the Marine Technical Division. But then it gets better than that. So that's all your schooling. This blue building on the right-hand side is Planned Parenthood. And then up the hill behind us is the hospital. But it gets better than that. Immediately adjacent to the hospital, there is an assisted living center. And then just back behind it, there's a funeral home. And across the hill, there's a cemetery. So we just passed a full circle of life for a Juneauite. And so now we're rolling into the Twin Lakes area, which is really nice. There's going to be two bodies of water on the right-hand side. We're passing the first one. They built these lakes when they built the road because all of our friends with beachfront property there were, you might say, quite unenthusiastic about the road construction project. Now, it looks like we've steamed up the windows of the bus a little bit. I don't mind if you scrub on them to be able to see better. I've got the air running and I've got it turned up. We should start to catch up here soon. And then hopefully they'll unfog. If not, yeah, I don't mind if you scrub it to be able to see better. Now, yeah, let me make sure I've got everything all squared away. Yeah, we're doing everything we can right now. Okay. So there's the second of the Twin Lakes. Now, on the left-hand side is the Gastineau Channel. That was where your ship was. And it was in the Gastineau Channel. And then the hills just on our left-hand side are Douglas Island. Now, the Gastineau Channel back in 1880 was deep enough that you could get an ocean-going vessel all the way around the island. Nowadays, though, it's become so shallow that you can actually just walk right across to the island at low tide. And that is due to something called glacial rebound. Basically, during the last ice age, this whole area was covered with a huge ice sheet that weighed millions of tons. And the weight of all that ice, it actually forced the surface of the Earth's crust downward. It compressed the stones, it forced it down into the substrate below. Now, once all that ice melted off, however, we have been experiencing just the opposite. Now everything is going upward at the rate of an inch or two a year. And in practically no time at all, Douglas Island will become Douglas Peninsula. In no time at all, geologically speaking, right? So you had good timing. If you'd have come in 200 years, you would have missed it. Oh, I gotta watch our traffic here. I had to get over to the left to let him in. We're gonna get back over to the right as soon as he'll left. All right. What a nice fella. Alaskans are so nice about driving. I don't know how people drive where you're from, but here they're very accommodating. Here we are in a great big bus, and nobody ever really gets mad. You know, every once in a while, you know, somebody might get cut off or have to cut me off. And you know what? But it's so rare, and everybody's just, they're so nice about it. It's a great time. Now, as we come cruising along here, we're going to be actually rolling right past where Glacier Gardens is. This hill right in front of us is, the trail that you'll be going on your adventure is kind of up in the trees there. So we're about halfway to the glacier. Now, let's see, yeah, with that in mind, let's get to talking a little bit about some of our wilder inhabitants of Juneau. We have quite a lot of bears in the area. They are all over the place, and they kind of act like they own the place. So we have to kind of coexist. That's why downtown all of the trash cans are locked up tight, and you have to like reach inside there and touch that gross little lever. It's because of the bears, and even sometimes, even with it all being locked up like that, they figure it out. So you'll come in the morning and there's a trash can that's just ripped open and there's trash all over the ground and you have to clean it up. But we do what we can to try and coexist. In fact, a lot of the times, like away from the glacier is where you'll see more bears. The closer you get to the glacier itself, the less wildlife there is because there's less topsoil. And so, of course, less plants and then less animals. That means that while we do need to be concerned about bears there around the glacier, it's not as big of an issue as it is, say, over on Douglas Island or in these trees around us here. So a lot of the locals around here, if they were to go on a hike, they would carry a little bell with them, just so that they're making noise, especially if they go by themselves. I imagine a lot of us are traveling in groups, and so you're already kind of making noise as you chat, and so then the wildlife's going to know where you're at. Then your next line of defense as a Juneau native would be bear spray, which is like pepper spray, right? But it shoots real far, it's got a real strong mixture to it. So that's good stuff. But if we do see a bear today, you're going to want to know what kind it is, because we have two species. We have black bears and we have brown bears. Now, it's called a coastal brown bear. It's like a grizzly, but bigger and meaner. But there is a problem, right? So step one, you need to know what kind it is. And in fact, there's a helpful phrase that'll help you know what to do depending on what kind of bear it is. And it goes, if it's black, fight back. But if it's brown, you should lie down. Personally, I think the brown bears came up with that. No, but there is some truth to it because black bears are fairly skittish. They're little scaredy cats. So if you stand up big and tall and just make a nice loud noise, generally they'll skedaddle. They'll get out of there. But grizzly bears or brown bears, right, they're not so accommodating. If you stand up big and tall and seem to argue, they tend to take that as a challenge. And so they might want to fight you. So, yeah, you want to treat them appropriately. But there is a problem, and it is that black bears can be brown in color, and brown bears can be black. It's a whole big mess. In fact, at the visitor center at the glacier, there is a brown black bear on display. It's just one big mess. But I've got some ways you can tell the bears apart. That way you'll know whether to fight back or lie down, yeah? So, step one, climb a tree. After you've climbed a tree, you know what bear is chasing you. You'll be able to tell that it's a black bear if it climbs the tree after you and eats you. Yep. Brown bears are very different. A brown bear will come up to the bottom of the tree, look up at you with a real frustrated look on its face, and then knock the tree down and eat you. Hey, you just laughed. This is serious. You gotta listen up, everybody. Don't laugh this off. This could save your life. I've got another way that you can tell them apart. And it's actually using their poop, their scat. Yeah, so if you come across a bear, you just have to wait for it to take a dump, and then you're going to be able to know for sure what kind of bear it is, because black bear scat is very, very dark in color. It's almost blue-black, and it has little berries and plant fibers in it. Whereas brown bear scat is completely different. It's light brown in color, has little bells in it, and smells like pepper spray. Hey, you're laughing again. What did I just say? You know, when we disregard all the bear safety stuff, all kinds of crazy things can happen. You know, I had a guy who thought these were all jokes. He got off my bus, and because of what he did, there's now a Christian bear in Juneau. Has anybody heard of the Christian bear? No? Well, folks, this is an important cautionary tale, okay? So, here's what happened. He got off my bus. His name was John. And he said, "That was great, Mason. I loved your bear jokes. You know, if I see a bear, though, I'm just going to run." Well, folks, that's the worst thing you can do. If you run from a bear, it thinks you're fast food. So he gets off, and now this is over on Douglas Island, where there are more bears than people. And he doesn't have any bells. He doesn't have any bear spray. He's just planning to run. Really, all he has is his phone, and he's using it to check his texts while he goes on his little hike. Well, as he comes around a corner, he looks up from his text, and he is face to face with this huge bear. It scares him so bad, he lets out a little scream. "Ah!" And then he turns around and runs away. Well, his scream scared the bear, and so the bear went into fight or flight. And then he sees John running away from him, so it scares him, and so, of course, the bear decides to chase him. And so they're going one after the other down the trail, right? Well, John was a sprinter, so he was doing all right. He got right out in front. He was doing pretty good. Meanwhile, though, the bear was just getting started. Until pretty soon, the bear is catching up to him. And John can see that the bear is getting closer, which is very concerning. And so he has a little bit of a come to Jesus moment. He shouts out a quick prayer. He says, "Dear God, I'm in a sticky situation here. I would really appreciate some help. Could you save me from this bear? Hey, maybe make the bear a Christian so he doesn't hurt me." And then he keeps running. Well, meanwhile, the bear's just getting faster and faster, right? Until pretty soon, the bear is right on John's heels. I mean, John is going as fast as he can, but this bear is right behind him each step of the way, hot on his heels. And John, in a panic, he just shouts out again. He says, "Please, God, I will do anything. I will dedicate my life to you. Just make this bear a Christian so he doesn't hurt me." And then John fell to his knees and he played dead. Well, this bear comes running right up to him and is standing big and tall on its hind legs, paws in the air, right over him, and it lets out a huge growl. And then the bear folded his arms, knelt down, and it started to pray. And the bear said, "Dear God, thank you so much for lunch." So keep your eyes peeled for the Christian bear now, too, yeah? All in good fun. I'm a Christian myself. We've already passed my church, but there are actually like 10 churches on this road. There are a lot of churches in Juneau, and one of the reasons there are so many churches in Juneau is because back in the day they passed a law, and the law said that for each bar in town, we would need to have at least one church. And so by last count, we currently have 47 of each. Which of course means that no matter your persuasion, you can go get high on the Spirit. Okie dokie. Okay. A lot of the bear stuff is jokes, right? I would say the only thing you really need to worry about is if you have any snacks or flavored beverages with you, they recommend not consuming them on the trail, just eating or drinking those in the visitor center. Or on the bus. Or you can leave them on the bus. We're going to be on the same bus the whole day. So whatever you want to do, that's their recommendation. And then, let's talk about the glacier. We're almost there. On our right-hand side, I know you can't see it if your window's foggy, the mountain right there is called Thunder Mountain because it's the most avalanche-prone peak in Juneau. And then right in front of us, we've got the right hand of the two Mendenhall towers, and the left-hand side is Gastineau Peak. No, it's not Gastineau Peak. It's Mount McGinnis. Gastineau Peak is downtown. I like these mountains. These mountains are great. So we've got all these wonderful mountains around here, and they create some very fun hiking trails. So we have enough time that I would recommend the Nugget Falls Trail to anyone who feels like they could comfortably walk 2 miles in an hour and a half. If that's not you, that's okay. But it is the best view that you can get of the falls. You walk right up to the base of it. It's incredible. Then on the way there, it's only a third of a mile round trip, is Photo Point. And I would recommend Photo Point to anybody. If you are able to walk the full length of the trip, you're going to do just fine on the walk to Photo Point and back. It's fantastic. It's going to give you the best view of the glacier and the falls. Because from the falls, you can't see the glacier. There's a cliff in the way. Because the glacier is in the canyon. But, yeah, so Photo Point, must do. Something else that I highly recommend is checking out the visitor center. They have a lot of really interesting information in there. And they have only ever happened once in the history of history, and it happened right here in Juneau. Here's what happened. Well, I guess it technically happened many times over the course of the domestication of dogs, but nobody wrote that down, so I'm going to tell you, here's the one that we all know about. A wolf showed up in 2003, which is unusual, because there's only between 7,000 and 12,000 wolves in the entire state, and they are very scared of people. But in 2003, this wolf just showed up, and he was incredibly friendly. If you went on a hike, like a lot of these people, like a walk into the glacier recreation area, and you brought your dog with you, he would come out and say hi, and he would play with your dog, and he was real gentle and real friendly. In fact, he was so friendly, especially to the female dogs, that he earned himself the name Romeo. And now Romeo kind of became an unofficial town mascot, and he lived out here for the rest of his life. And everybody knew him, he was well beloved. When he passed away, they did get him stuffed. And so you can actually go see Romeo in the visitor center. It's a great big black wolf mounted up high on the wall. So I recommend checking that out too. You can snag a picture of him. And then if you go on the Nugget Falls hike, you'll see a little memorial to him. They say he still lives in our hearts, or he still lives here. His spirit still walks here. It's a tender story. But let's chat. Okay, so that's all the things. All right. Time check, 3 o'clock. Okay. So, the bus will leave the glacier at 4:35. And you're going to want to remember that one. Yeah, because it's 3 o'clock, hour and a half. Yeah, 4:35. And that gives us, about, let's see, yeah, that's 8 minutes for loading and unloading. And, yeah, so 4:35. Now, do you folks know the difference between a tourist and a hitchhiker? The difference is very simple. It's 1 minute. So if you're back by, we're gonna have the bus be leaving at 4:35. If you're back a minute before, you'll be fine. We'll load everybody up when we'll get out of here. But yes, so if you want to leave anything on the bus, be my guest. But I do have to warn you, I can't stay right here at the trailhead. So once everybody's off, I'm going to go write all of our information down on a little whiteboard next to the flags, and then I'm going to take the bus to a little parking lot, and then I'll be back about 10-15 minutes before we leave. Now, if you come back after 4:35 and you look at that whiteboard and you see, Mason, bus 137 or 1137, and there's a little -1 next to my name, the -1 is you, and you missed the bus, and we are all very sad, and we miss you. And you should tell the ranger that you missed the bus, and they'll give you a number for a taxi or something like that. But yeah, just don't miss the bus. I've got a perfect record. I've never left anybody at the glacier, because you guys are just so sharp. So we're going to go have some fun. If you've got any questions, feel free to ask me as we unload. We are...
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe.